Max Verstappen going for his 5th World Championship, brilliant defense from Charles Leclerc, two McLarens bumping into each other, reckless driving from Carlos Sainz, this and many more of the United States Grand Prix. Now let's take a quick look at one practice we had. Ferrari tested a few things for their setup in order to prevent their plank from wearing. They were testing different ride heights, then they were locking up a bit, which meant they were testing some things. Then Hajar had his engineer telling him that Bottas was ahead of him and it annoyed him after a while, so he told him that there was no Bottas. However, it could potentially be shown on data because, as we know, Cadillac will join F1 in 2026, so they are testing its team, their different setups, different things for the real F1 weekend. Then the sprint qualifying came. Yuki was out in SQ1, to which we kinda used to because it's his usual performance. Then Ferrari just scraped it to Q3 barely. However, they bumped out Antonelli, who was out in Q2. Ferrari tried a few things, which resulted in them having no pace for the sprint and sprint qualifying, and that resulted in P8 and P10 for the sprint race. Antonelli, after qualifying, told us some interesting things.
Physical issues as in with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I had, can I say it? I was wearing the cooling vest and we had a failure in the cooling. So instead of cooling, it was warming me up. So I had a big struggle in the session.
He had his vest failed. He was not only not cooling him, but heating him up. So it made his qualifying even more tougher with this hot temperature in Austin. Then in SQ3, Fernando Alonso did a tremendous thing and put his Aston Martin in P7. We kinda used to him putting his car out there in the mix when the car is capable of fighting for this high position. Then Hulk did even more tougher job because he put Sauber in P4 for the sprint race. And then there was Max Verstappen, who qualified on P1 and took pole for the sprint race, which gave him even more advantage for his championship battle. As the lights went on for the sprint race, both McLaren took each other out. However, there was not only them, but there also was Alonso, and Hulkenberg was hurt. So Piastri tried to cross his teammate and thought that there was no car beside them on track. Nonetheless, there was also Hulkenberg, who tried to avoid it and save his P4, but it resulted in him driving into Alonso and ruining a lot of race. However, it gave promotion for some drivers, as Tsunoda, both Ferraris, and Carlos Sainz. Ferrari took P4 and P5, which was already a good result after P8 and P10. Then there was Carlos Sainz, who was on P3 and finished the race on podium position. Yeah, I know it's a sprint, but it's a second podium out of 3rd races for Sainz for Williams. And then, as the sprint went on, Stroll did troll things in turn 1 and rammed Ocon out of the race. He immediately was sorry for that. However, he received 5-place grid penalty and 2 penalty points in his license. Then we had some usual battle between Max and George. It was in turn 12 when George tried to brake early. However, it resulted in him running Max out of track, but it didn't ruin Max's sprint race, so he calmly went on to win it and extend his point advantage gap on Piastri, who is out of form in the recent races, which hurt his chances for the title massively. Now let's talk about qualifying for the race. In Q1 we had Hajar out. Yeah, it was a mistake by him. However, he is a rookie, there was a lot of wind, a lot of bumps, so this type of mistakes can happen and it's okay. I'm sure he will learn from it and make sure this type of mistakes don't happen again. In Q3, Ferrari did some funny things because on their first run in Q3, Charles Leclerc spun at the last corner, which ruined his lap. Then Lewis Hamilton went on to make a big lockup in turn 1, which ruined his lap as well. So this left Ferrari with no bunker laps and only one last attempt, plus a bit of a pressure on their shoulders. However, they coped tremendously and put their cars in P3 and P5, which was just a great recovery after a bad start to the weekend. This meant that they found something in their setup and could be well set for the main race. And here comes the race. Charles Leclerc was the only one who started on soft in top 10. This led to him having advantage and overtaking Norris in turn 1. Then it was just a brilliant masterclass defense from Charles during his two stints. The first stint he was on soft, who had some laps in it, plus he was defending from Norris, who had fresher tires and faster McLaren. Norris, while attacking Charles, received 3 strikes for track limits. However, he didn't went out of track limits by himself. It was the Charles who made him to do that. He received a black and white flag for that. This meant that if he only goes 1 out of track limits, he received a 5-second penalty. Charles was defending beautifully from Norris. However, on lap 51, it just wasn't enough, because McLaren had an advantage. This led to Charles finishing on P3, and he is back on the podium after a while. Plus, after a rough start to the weekend, it was a good turnaround. Lando Norris finished P2 after some battles with Charles, so he made his gap smaller and smaller to Piastri. However, there was Max Verstappen, who after turn 1 flew away. This Charles Leclerc defense led him to manage his race, control his tires, and make an easy, we can say easy, 68 win of his career.
Extremely well done. Now, enjoy the celebrations. I'll see you next go.
Yeah, well done, mate. Unbelievable weekend. Really, really good. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, we can fly back, mate.
Plus, he tightened the gap to 40 points after this weekend, so the championship is on more than ever. In the meantime, Carlos Sainz was overtaking Ollie Behrman in turn 15. It was a successful overtake. However, when he tried to do the same lately on Kimi Antonelli at the same corner, turned into him and ruined Kimi's and his race. He lately even tried to blame him for turning into the corner and ruining his race. Generally, I would like to hear your thoughts on this, because from my point of view, Carlos is the one who is at fault here, for which he received some great penalties from Mexico. But drop your thoughts on this incident in the comments down below. This time in the race, Lance Stroll did a proper overtake in turn 1 on Colapinto, because he didn't took him out of the race and did a successful move. Then his teammate Fernando Alonso also did a massive overtake in turn 1, and this led to him finishing in P10 and bringing some points to Aston Martin. Then there is Ollie Behrman, who we spoke about earlier. He almost had a massive crash with Yuki Tsunoda in turn 15, who by his words moved under brake. Plus, Yuki earlier in the weekend tried to blame Lawson for ruining his fast lap. From my perspective, it's total bullshit, because Lawson was nowhere near from ruining his lap, and it's usual words from Tsunoda that everyone is at fault but not him. Nonetheless, he finished in P7, which helped Red Bull a bit in the Constructors' Championship to maybe fight for P2 with Max Verstappen. It was a magnificent weekend with a lot of actions on and off track. Masterclass from Leclerc, Max tightening the gap to 40 points, both McLarens taking each other out, Sainz finishing on the podium, hulking the points, and we are not stopping because we are moving to Mexico. Thank you for watching. Drop your thoughts on this weekend in the comments down below, your feedback on my content, how you'd want it to look. Hit like and subscribe to not miss any videos from me, and I'll see you in the next one.